Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to set up an account for Flat and also how to do this sight reading assignment. So you're going to go into your web browser and you're going to type flat, flat.io, hit enter, and you'll be taken to this Flat application. Now, you want to sign up using your own personal email address. It allows you to have more space to save compositions. You can try signing up with your school email address, but I had some issues with that. So you're going to sign up for Flat by typing in your personal email, a password you'll remember, and your age. I'm going to sign in because I already set up my account with my personal email and with my own password. So once you do all of that, you'll see that you have kind of your own place for all of your scores. And in this case, since you're starting fresh, you'll open a new score or tab. So click there. You get to title your document whatever you want. Since this is a sight singing activity, I'm just going to call it Will Sight Sing, and today is April 23rd. Yes, 34th, correct. And then you press continue. It allows you to choose whatever instruments you would like. So I'm going to go with vocals, and I'm going to go with alto because I'm an alto. You can pick whichever part of the choir you want, or if you want to be goofy, you can pick another instrument, but it's best to pick an instrument that has the same kind of range as the voice. But since we're reading the music, ultimately, we'll sing it in the octave that we can sing it in. So you want to pick an instrument that has a treble clef or a bass clef. So your assignment is to create a sight singing composition. And you can create the composition for however long you would like, but let's do 4 measures because Mrs. Will's probably going to ask you to do mostly 4 measure compositions. So this is pretty easy. You can change different styles of notation up here. Really, you don't need any of these besides measure, where you can add or subtract measures. That's pretty helpful. So let's just say I want to work with 4 measures. There we go. I added 3 measures to the one that I had for a total of 4. And then I'm going to my notes. Now you should really stick with whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes. If you want to get interesting, maybe some 16th notes, but let's stick to these first 4 notes here because we're used to reading our ta, ti, ta, ta, and if we want a dotted half note, which I'll give you an example of here, I can move back over that note. You have to have the note highlighted to make any changes to it, and then click the dot. Now I have a dotted half note that gets 3 beats. So you have all sorts of note durations that you can use in your sight singing. If I decide that I don't want this note, I don't want this B, I can change it by going down on my keyboard. I can move it by step. That's pretty easy. Or if I use command down, that's at least on Apple, I can make it jump by octave. Now let's say your first assignment is to write a sight singing example in the key of C major. We already have no sharps or flats over here, so that's perfect. If we're singing in the key of C, we're going to want to keep it between C and C. Now I could quickly highlight over a rest, which gets 1 beat, and just type the letter C, and it'll write a C. If I type the letter B, it will write B, A, G, and so on. So play around with this a little bit and find these shortcuts that are going to make your composition a lot easier. If I decide as I'm going along, I want this note instead to be a half note, I highlight the note, make sure that little arrow is pointing to it, and then I click the half note value. Now what you'll notice is that because this became a half note, we had to subtract one of the other beats from our measure because each measure has to equal 4 beats. That's what our time signature tells us. If you want to change the time signature, you can change it over here. So I recommend sticking with these top 3, having 2 beats per measure, 3 beats per measure, or 4 beats per measure. The bottom number, remember, stays the same because a quarter note represents 1 beat in each of these. So stick with 2/4, 3/4, or 4/4. I'll stay with 4/4 and I'm going to write a quick example. Oh, you don't want two notes at once, so you can highlight the one that you don't want and click delete or backspace. You can also set the duration of the note before you type it. That's probably the best thing to do. So for example, I want my next note to be 2 beats, so I can highlight over the rest before I even deal with that. But play along with this. There we go. So if you want to get rid of this extra measure, remember that you can go into measure and then subtract one. But as long as you have 4 measures complete, Mrs. Will be happy with that. So if you want, you can hit the play button at the top and it will play through your composition for you, wherever the last place you clicked. So if you want to go from the beginning, press that first note. Cool. So now what I can do is I can click share. I've decided that this is good. You can play along with it, do whatever you want. I'm going to click share and I'm going to add collaborators. So you're going to go to add collaborators, and if you type in @mwill, I will hopefully pop up. I'm not popping up for myself because I'm the owner, but you'll type @mwill and share it with me. Then Mrs. Will have access to your sight singing. She'll have access to any compositions that you do if you share it with her, and she'll be able to give you comments and be able to grade your work. So as soon as you're done with sight singing, make sure you share it with @mwill. You can go back into Flat by clicking on your picture or whatever your initials are in My Library, and then you'll be able to see your latest composition, and you can feel free to play around with a new composition. Make sure to leave a little bit of space. You get up to 15 free scores. Leave a little bit of free space because we'll be using this again during our remote learning. But that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about Flat, please feel free to email Mrs. Will. And the cool thing about Flat is that it basically functions like a Google Doc where you can go into your composition, you can share it with your friends or Mrs. Will, and you can collaborate on the same document. So a really cool, quick way to write music. Again, feel free to play around with it a little bit, but when you're writing sight singing examples, keep it simple yet just a little challenging for yourself and your classmates. Thank you so much. Be well.